we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now, back to the After Practice podcast with Lake Lewis.
Welcome, everyone, to another After Practice podcast. I appreciate you joining me as always. And it's been a couple weeks since I've last done the podcast. As you know, it's this time of year where we literally in the NFL world have to wait till training camp starts back up, before all the excitement kicks back in from you, the fans. And the Washington Commanders training camp starts on the 24th of July. So we're still a little bit over a month out before, again, as I said, we get into our training camp. But one of the questions that I'm getting quite a bit on my social media is what's different about this football team? What's different, Lake? Because, I'm guilty of over the years, I don't push Kool-Aid to anyone because I don't even drink Kool-Aid, too much sugar. But I will say this, my job is to always try to see a silver lining in something. You have to keep it positive. It can't be negative all the time. And one of the things that I've been, I don't want to say guilty of, but over the years is I've always tried to keep it positive, even when you knew maybe it wasn't going to be a positive outcome on the season. Well, this year, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm expecting a lot from this football team. And I'm not saying as far as wins and losses, I'm not saying I'm expecting for them to have a 15-win season and they're going to be 15-3. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I'm expecting to see a modernized professional outfit. And I think that is something that the fan base for the Washington Commanders has been looking for years. And now they're going to finally have it with Adam Peters, Dan Quinn. And, you have a new quarterback now in Jayden Daniels. So today we're going to talk about the changes and the things that I'm seeing that does make this year seem different going into training camp. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about a couple of sponsors that are really making this show go. And I'd be remiss if I came on and did not, shout them out. So, our presenting sponsor here is ThermoPack. And ThermoPack has a very innovative mouth shield. And it's a mouth shield that in these hot days of the summer, and where I sit right here in Virginia, it's supposed to be 98 degrees today and very humid in this region of the country. But if you have this mouth shield, the mouth shield actually changes colors, and it'll give you a proper reading. So basically, I have it right here. This is the ThermoPack mouth shield, and I'm telling you, folks, it's very revolutionary. It protects teeth and it saves lives. That's literally how they're marketing this too. So if you can, I implore you to go to thermopack.com and look up more information about ThermoPack and what they're doing to help change the sports game. This is a very important product. Also, our good friends over at Sideline Prep. If you're an aspiring professional cheerleader, if you want to become a professional cheerleader, they're the ticket for you. They're the people that will get you right and get you in the proper position to, audition for teams and things of that nature. So they represent clients in the NBA as well as the NFL. So you can go to sidelineprep.com for more information on them. And then you can check out our good friends over at Chill Skins. Chill Skins is a revolutionary cooling towel, and they have cooling headgear as well. And I use the towel all the time. I mean, I use it when I'm at the pool, at the beach, or if I'm just out on a normal, like I said, dog days of the summer, and you have this thing around. All you have to do is wet it, and it will stay cool for several hours. So you can check out our good friends over at chillskins.com. If you'd like to follow me on social media, it's very simple. All you have to do is follow at Lake Lewis Jr. So once again, at Lake Lewis Jr. And that's on Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, or Instagram. You can follow me on all of the above. You can also follow us at Sports Journey on sportsjourney.com. And then over the next couple of weeks, there's some information that will be changing as far as me and where you can follow me and see me. So we're excited about that. But that's probably about another 2 weeks out. But it's hopefully going to take everybody by surprise. So anyway, let's talk about the Washington Commanders and what do I see that's different about this football team. Well, the first thing is the energy. I've been tweeting out and posting on my social medias video of them coming together, before practice. They bring everyone in a huddle, and then, the white and the burgundy break, and they actually compete against each other in high speed, high energy drills. And that's something I've never seen done in Washington, at least. I know that's something that Dan Quinn said that they did in Seattle. And Seattle's known, or at least they were known when they were the Legion of Boom and going to Super Bowls. They were known for the energy and effort on the field. And I think that is something that Dan Quinn's trying to, not duplicate, because as he said in himself and his assistant coaches have said, they're going to bring a commander style of doing things. Well, clearly they want to up the ante in practice and make the energy level high and consistent throughout practice. And that's something that I've definitely noticed. It's definitely no wasted time, no wasted effort. The practices haven't been 2 hour long sessions where you can see guys have mentally checked out when, they get to, position or they have what they call, sets and things like that. So you may have in a given practice, you may go up to 8 to 9, quarters, so to speak. And, they may have them be 10 minutes each, so what we've noticed is that at these Washington Commanders practices is that they've gone to like 7, and, they haven't wasted time. It's been an hour, 15 minutes of hard practice, high energy, guys competing, guys, cheering each other on. So it's just a different feel. I'm not the only person that has said this. I'm sure you've seen other reports out there as well from some of my colleagues, and it's true. It's a different feel to the practice. You just can't help but feel the energy, literally oozing over to us on the sidelines watching practice. And from all angles, whether we're on the defensive side of the field, whether it's special teams, whether we're on the offensive side of the field, guys are really working. And that's a good sign if you're a Washington Commanders fan. What else has changed for the Washington Commanders? Several things. The talent level on the field looks different. It's pretty much a chunk of players from last year, but they have a lot of new additions, and a lot of those new additions are guys that are bigger, faster, and hungry. They're hungrier. They're guys that may have had success on other teams, but not the success of like stardom where they could become a household name. It's been nothing of the sort. So, if you're a Washington Commanders fan, I'm telling you, a lot of these guys who are coming in to play, the Frankie Louvuls of the world who came over from the Carolina Panthers, he's a guy that I think is going to become a household name around the league, not just in the DMV. I think he's going to be a guy that, along with Bobby Wagner and Jayden Daniels, and there's a young kid, McGee from Temple, that I'm really high on. I think the Washington Commanders linebacker unit overnight has become probably one of their best position groups. And I think that group will be high energy, and you're going to see that on the field as well. They're going to be in attack mode, hitting people all over the field. That's something that you want to see. So for me, the talent level is better than I've seen in a lot of years in Washington. The thing that I will say with that, so I can preface that, is, Washington over the past several years have had some great frontline players. You had the Deshaun Jacksons, a star player around the league. You had Pierre Garçon at one point. You had Jordan Reed, who I still will say this, had his career really not been cut short because of the concussions. I think Jordan Reed would be in the conversations with the Travis Kelce's and George Kittles of the world as far as one of the best tight ends in all of football. He was that dominant and talented as a player. But, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the talent levels. So Washington in years past had a lot of talent, a lot of frontline talent at the very top. But then when some of those guys would get injured, there was no one behind them that could come in and fill the void. Well, I think that's something that this football team is being put together to be totally different. This football team's being put together to have depth. They're being put together to have guys competing and having competition, so that if you're a frontline player, you can never get comfortable, you can never get fat, lazy, whatever you want to call it, because you're going to have somebody behind you that's gunning for your job. And that brews and festers competition, and that's what Washington's doing. So the talent level, as the second thing, is something that I've definitely noticed. The third thing And listen, I don't want to go on the bandwagon and overhype and all those things, but Jayden Daniels looks legit. Jayden Daniels looks like a top prospect. And there's no doubt that he's caught the attention of his teammates, the veterans, the Bobby Wagners of the world, the John Allens of the world, the Terry McLaurins of the world. The faces of the Commanders have said that this guy's impressed them with his work ethic and his humbleness. He's a team first guy. So, it's not one of these high draft picks that are going to come in there and turn the story into being about him. It's not that. He said all the right things so far. He's a rookie. He hasn't done anything, and he doesn't want to be called a franchise quarterback. He's just a rookie. I mean, this guy, when I interviewed him in Detroit at the draft, and right after he was picked, he was saying all the right things. And, I was looking to see if it would continue, and it has. He's a guy that knows his role. He knows who he is. Don't get me wrong. He knows that he's special. He knows that he's a really good football player. But he also knows he's a rookie and he hasn't taken a snap yet. So he's keeping everything, under the vest. He's keeping everything even keel, and he's just out there working. And I think from what my eyes have seen, what plenty of people have already reported as well, listen, the ball leaves his hand differently from the other quarterbacks out there. It just does. The accuracy is there. Obviously, he's uber athletic, and he hasn't even really shown that too often. He's had a couple runs that he's made in practice, but they've tried to keep him in the pocket. They haven't led anything for anyone to believe that Jayden Daniels is going to be running all over the field. I mean, he's strictly been in the pocket. They've ran a couple plays for him to get out on a bootleg or something like that. But for the most part, they've had him in the pocket, and he's looked very dangerous in that space. So I think Jayden Daniels gives the Washington Commanders that quarterback that they haven't had in a long time. And I know Kirk Cousins was probably the most successful quarterback in modern day times for the Commanders. The numbers were there, but he wasn't winning games. And Kirk Cousins was not leading them in the playoffs. And, no one was, frankly. So, this football team has found what they believe to be their franchise quarterback. And he's a young guy, a guy that can be in that position for 10 plus years. And that's what, if you're a Commanders fan, again, this is what you want to see. And more importantly, what you want to see is a locker room that already believes in the young guy because of his work ethic and his humbleness. So that's always a good sign if you're a Washington Commanders fan. So that's my third thing that's different. They have a real franchise quarterback. They have a guy that, trajectory-wise should be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL this year. And who's to say, years down the road, if he can be in the conversation as the best quarterback. So that's what Washington is hoping that they have in Jayden Daniels. And everything I've seen with my own eyes, there's nothing that leads me to believe that he can't become all of the above. Something else that is definitely noticeable in practice, and I kind of alluded to this as far as the talent, but the size of this football team is different. They've had some large men at times, but collectively, this is a really big football team, and I mean that size-wise. These guys are, just walking out 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 280, 290, 300 pounds. I mean, these are, it's just a bigger looking football team, more athletic looking football team. And again, you could relate that to talent maybe, but there have been some really talented football teams that weren't the largest teams in the world. I mean, the Denver Broncos that won, back-to-back Super Bowls when Mike Shanahan was there, they had one of the smaller offensive lines in all of football, but they were very versatile and very quick, nimble of foot. But this is a different football team. I mean, their offensive line looks larger, more girth up front. And I think that's going to be important for the third thing we talked about, Jayden Daniels. He's going to need those guys up front to get the job done for him to, have some success in the NFL as a rookie. So for me, the size of the Washington Commanders is definitely something that jumps off the charts. And I think you guys are going to see that if you come out to training camp in Ashburn. Once that starts, you're going to be saying the same thing, like, wow, this is a much bigger football team. The other thing that's heavily noticeable, and it probably could have gone at number one. It really could, outside of the energy. It kind of plays a part into that number one, and it's the coaching. The coaching is hands-on coaching, not drill sergeant type, not yelling, screaming, but just complimentary coaching. Like, hey, do this, put your foot in the dirt. It'll turn your body up here. Hey, put your hands up when you're looking, look the ball in. It's just, you see younger coaches, I will say that, coaches who've played in the NFL, some coaches who've already been head coaches in the NFL. You're seeing them at their craft. You're seeing them do what they do best. And that's the coaching aspect. That's just, motivating young men to be better and motivating guys to get better. And I think that that's a reason why after these practices, you see a lot of guys after practice on the jugs machine, or doing extra reps, doing extra drills, to see the, Luke McCaffrey's taking handoffs from Anthony Lynn at running back, when we all know Luke McCaffrey was drafted to be a slot receiver, to be probably the third receiver, which I think he will be this year as a rookie. He's going to be their number 3 receiver, but he's also taken some snaps in the backfield, taking some handoffs after practice from Coach Anthony Lynn, who was a head coach for this, LA Chargers, and now is the running backs coach for the Washington Commanders. So it's little things like that with this new coaching staff. Joel Witt, I got to talk to him, because I've noticed every practice, every play, he's voice prompting or dictating something into some kind of audio device after every play, and he's taking notes. So these are little things that are just different for the Washington Commanders. And I'm not saying that it's going to translate, like I said, to wins, but I can tell you it's going to translate to just more of a modern outfit for Washington. And they haven't had that in some time, just the way their practice habits were, the way they went about business. It just wasn't things that were normal to me. I saw the Baltimore Ravens, I saw the New York Giants, and I hadn't seen that in Washington. So now, like I said, Dan Quinn is the new head coach. He had success when he was in Atlanta. He took them to the Super Bowl, whether they lost or not to the New England Patriots in that epic collapse, being up 28-3 at halftime. It doesn't matter. The point is, he took a team to the Super Bowl. He won a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. And we all know that defense was one of the better defenses over the last 20 plus years, the Legion of Boom. So he knows what he's doing in Dallas. His defenses were always ranked in the top 5 and always at 1 or 2 as far as creating turnovers. So he, along with Joel Witt, who he brought in from Dallas, Joel Witt Jr., who's now the defensive coordinator in Washington, they have, a way that they're going about doing things as far as the coaching, as far as the structure. And then, of course, Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and now he's the offensive coordinator in Washington. And he has a way of how he wants things done. And it's just high energy. And it's a lot of, I think positive reinforcement is the word I can say. The structure of everything is, a lot of high fives, a lot of good jobs, a lot of there you go. That's the type of stuff that I think in today's society, especially with younger folks, they need that positive reinforcement. And it's just the way it is. And I think that sometimes, some of the older coaches in the league, maybe they lose sight of that. Maybe it's just they're not used to it, and it's a little more, little bit more, hard-nosed the way they want to approach things. But listen, when you're in this kind of heat and it's the dog days of summer and you're going to start training camp and you're going to be banging on each other, you also need to know that you're doing something well. So I think that this coaching staff has shown, that they can be very, rah-rah and good job type coaches. And I think that that's going to go well for a young football team that's trying to find their way to see what the kind of team they can be in the NFL. So wanted to come on real quick, of course, let you know my thoughts on what I'm seeing. These are my 5 things. It's not anybody else's. It's my 5. Maybe some other people have seen the same things, which I'm sure they have and talked about too. But yeah, it's a different vibe around Commanders Park, even from them tearing up the old artificial turf field on one of the practice fields to put down a new practice field. I mean, it's it's good times, right now. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, and obviously you want to make sure it's good times transferring to Sundays, but we still have months before that happens. We still have to get through training camp, then you have preseason in August, and then obviously when September comes around, you'll have your regular season. So we'll still have plenty of time to talk about all of those things coming up here on the After Practice podcast. So again, folks, you can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. or Lake Lewis Jr. on Twitter, which is now X, Facebook, Instagram, and then of course you can go to sportsjourney.com and follow myself as well as some of my colleagues' work on there. And then we'll be letting you know some of the newer outlets where you'll be able to follow my work as well. So definitely appreciate you taking time out of your day and joining me. Whatever you're doing out there, be safe, my friends, and we'll see you soon. Take care.